recording.
Hello, good evening. This is Gina Marie D'Amelio for Team 2, CSA 352, class assignment LO9, recorded conference agenda. I'd like to cover some of the rules for our conference. Each member should participate and get their comments in a conversational way in on their own. There is no specific time minimum, however. Keep your comments to 1 to 2 points at most so that the conversation keeps moving. I'd like to turn over now to our introductions, and we'll start with the next person in the group.
Hello, is Dana Guyton, and I am recording this conference from actually New York right now, but I'm usually in
Jess?
All right. Dana, did you want to do anything again, or? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we stopping to edit things, or
No.
are we just okay?
Hi, my name's Jess, just outside of Philadelphia.
Good evening. My name is Steven Slesky from Michigan.
And hello, my name is Joseph McHugh. I'm near Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. So I just wanted to discuss the preparation that we did. We decided on a recording software called OBS, and we use Google Docs and Google Drive and Google Hangouts to collaborate. A lot of documentation is put into Google Drive, and we're going to include a lot of that in our presentation today. As we discuss certain parts of the case study here, you'll be seeing different parts of our documentation that we created to come to a final conclusion as far as our topic statement. So Dana, if you want to talk about Remy Cake.
Sure. So our case study is on Remy Cake Bakery. Remy Cake has a unique culture that has encouraged the values of empowerment, commitment, and participation. The founders wanted to provide a great customer service experience for its customers, as well as a positive environment for its employees. They believed the way to provide outstanding customer service was to invest in their employees. The founders developed a flat organization and made each employee a shareholder in the company. Each employee had the right to make decisions they thought would provide the best customer service experience. The atmosphere and culture of Remy Cake made it very profitable and successful. The founders decided to expand to accommodate the increase in business. With the expansion, came some issues.
I'm sorry, Dana, but you're breaking up a little bit.
The bakery's culture has been affected by a number of factors. The owners are aging and spending less time in the bakery. Some of the original employees are going off to college and on to other opportunities. The remaining team is being split up and sent to open the new stores. As the culture at the bakery has changed, so has the customer service. The bakery is experiencing a rise in customer complaints. Business is slowing, and the newer staff are not providing the same level of customer service the bakery is known for. With the split up of the original team and the diminishing customer service experience, Remy Cake is losing the culture that made it famous. And our job here is to help Remy Cake get back to its core values and culture.
All right. So before we jump in and talk about, the problems that we wanted to solve, we wanted to talk briefly about the different decision-making methods that we were going to potentially use. So what we're going to do, I'm going to read out each different type of decision-making method, and kind of as a group we can kind of list out the pros and cons of each one. So for example, the first one I have on the list here is leader mandate. And in general terms, from our textbook, leader mandate is when a single leader of a group makes a decision and then announces that to the whole group. So you kind of wanted to get the pros and cons from the rest of the group on how that you perceive that working in this type of environment for our project.
If you are okay, I'd like to start that off by saying that for our group, I don't believe that the leader mandate method would be very effective because it puts one person in charge to make the final decision. And I think that as a group, we're capable of coming together and making a single decision for our decision-making and problem-solving process. That would be my perspective. So I would pass on leader mandate maybe as a last resort, possibly, but other than that, I would take a pass on that.
I tend to agree with Gina. As far as leader mandate, I don't believe that any one of us had more expertise or knowledge on the topic than anyone else to be able to make an informed decision better than we could make as a group.
Yeah, I tend to think our professor would probably not like it if just one person did all the deciding.
Yeah, the major con with leader mandate is that we're not getting a consensus of the whole group. We're not getting the best ideas generated if someone's making the final say. Although a leader would be better than a manager, but we wanted to make a decision as a group and made sure we can all agree on something.
I agree, and I think that's the biggest negative to leader mandate is that no one gets their voice heard except for the one leader. So,
just to play devil's advocate here, any pros to this one at all? I mean, on the surface, I think it could potentially be fast, but
it is
obviously
fast.
A lot more negatives.
I definitely agree with that, but we wanted to spend the time.
Yeah, I think in this situation, it's not that effective because we all have so much to gain from hearing each other's perspectives.
I'm sure for some groups there might be a more positive outcome for a leader mandate method, but for this particular assignment, I would say that the pros aren't necessarily going to be effective for us.
I agree with all that too. So, it's not effective for the situation we're talking about.
And that kind of brings us to majority rule as well.
Yeah, so majority rule, basically when 50% or more of the group agree, we would say that a decision has been made at that point. Anyone have any feedback on that one?
I kind of go back and forth with majority rule because, again, it's situational. I can definitely see using majority rule if we've ruled out using other methods and we needed something else to fall on. Majority rule might be effective. That would be something I see as both a positive and a negative, but I also believe that we can all come to some kind of an agreement.
I think majority rule would have worked great if we couldn't come to an agreement. We had to kind of forcefully make a decision where we had to take the majority of the group and make that decision. But even though we are all very different people and have our different opinions about things, we still were able to talk everything out, and that's why we chose not to go with majority rule, I believe.
Yeah, so it seems like that's not ideal. It might be necessary as like a utility decision-making process if we ever get stuck, but not something we endeavor to do, is to exclude a 49% or less of the group. All right, so another process that we could decide to use is powerful minority. In other words, a small group of people within the group has an unequal share of the power and gets to make a decision. I don't know, any thoughts on that one?
Well,
I'm super for it. Yeah! No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, David.
Just based on the fact that it's based on an unequal distribution of power, that a potential problem. Especially for a group that is working together for educational purposes. I think that having certain people, unless somebody in this group was a teacher and has loads of experience in this area, it wouldn't benefit us because it would basically be dictating to the rest of the group what decisions are going to be made, and there's something lost when everyone doesn't have the opportunity to express themselves.
I agree 100%. I feel like powerful minority is more for that expert conference where it's a one-way conversation. They're teaching us and we're listening, and they're making final decisions for us because they have more experience and what have you. But I don't feel that that's necessary or appropriate per se for this particular setting.
Right.
Although it may have its positives, its pros, but not for this setting.
I agree with that because, just one person or two people who make a decision on their own might not know or understand why the rest of the group is feeling or thinking other ways. So you're not getting the group's voice heard in this situation specifically.
Kind of reminds me of the people making an alliance on Survivor or something like that. You have one or two people trying to shake things up, and obviously that doesn't work for our setting.
No.
All right. The next one we have here is standard agenda, and that's a more formalized process of decision making where we're talking about understanding the change. The charge, understanding and phrasing questions, fact finding, setting criteria, things like that. So definitely a more elaborate and well thought out process to defining and making decisions.
I love agendas. I love them a lot. I am so for them that I kind of put this little agenda together to get us started, because that's me, that's the way I think, and it doesn't really force an idea on everyone. It just helps guide them along so that we don't get stuck. And I have problems with getting stuck on something, so having an agenda helps me understand what I'm looking forward to, what I need to meet in a group setting, and I'm just all for it. I can't see anything bad about an agenda.
Yeah, I think the standard agenda kind of bullets things and takes things step by step, so you can work through a problem and use those questions as kind of a founding point for every aspect of the standard agenda.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think there may be some cons with standard agenda. If you're you got a speeding bus coming at you, and your decision is whether or not you jump out of the way or try and withstand the bus. I think standard agenda is not going to produce the right results for you. So I think in some settings, efficiency and making decisions quickly is beneficial. So I don't know. Just throwing that out there as a potential con.
Are you talking about time critical thinking and decision making there? Is that where we're going with that?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
And I also think
it works fine for our group so far. I mean, we set the agenda and things like that. It wasn't the process we decided to follow through with the whole thing, but for the things that we have used it for, it's worked pretty well.
I would tend to agree, and I don't know that the standard agenda, I don't know if it always sparks the type of conversations and kind of generation of ideas and sharing of ideas necessarily as some of the other, some of the other process.
Okay, so it sounds like we're going to potentially keep that one, but let's keep going on. Decision tree process, a series of questions to determine the degree of involvement needed for a specific problem situation. So in other words, kind of mapping out a yes, no, yes, no type of thing. So yeah, I think there could be benefits to that. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think this one would be better after you have the problem defined. And then, what we've been doing for this part of the project is trying to figure out what the problem is and not how we're going to solve it quite yet.
Good point.
I'm kind of on the fence, so I don't. I understand what Steve's saying, but maybe I just don't have a full understanding of how that's used. Series of questions is very important to ask, so that it kind of helps guide us where we're going, what direction. So I can see if that was an option, I would definitely try it out. I'm not sure how it would work for the group, but I don't see what's wrong with trying.
It's definitely a good process.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think it's a good process. I mean, you get quality from your decision. The commitment required is guided towards success. And then the information that we already have, we try to focus on that more than anything. It goes step by step and makes it.
Are you having a hard time hearing?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
There we go.
Yeah, it's better now.
I think a decision tree process could be really helpful if you're trying to, do something over and over and over again. Like, if you're categorizing birds or something like that, you have a tree in which it helps you define and understand what you're looking at. But for this one, we're all new to this. I'm not even sure we would know what questions we need to ask to understand this problem yet. So I think there's some, cons to this one just because of our inexperience.
Well, I also think the decision tree process is great when there are multiple layers and multiple steps to kind of implementing something. So it's great for trying to figure out what do we need to do? How is this going to affect people? Who is it going to affect? How do we roll out this program? I think it's really good for that type of situation. Maybe not necessarily to your point, just in our situation where we're all trying to come up with ideas at the same time.
Okay, so we got 3 more here. Experientially based processes. In other words, we go around and we try and rationalize this until we can find something that's good enough. It's not perfect, but it works, right? Seems like that could work in some occasions with this project.
I understood this to be more of a kind of like an experiment. If you were to take stats on how many people sat on a particular bench and you use that data to help move to the next question or something. I don't think I would use this for this particular project, but it would be beneficial if we had something that we needed to collect data on, like the number of complaints or satisfaction, customer satisfaction issues specifically. I could see it being used for that, but I don't know that it would work necessarily for this particular project.
And also, the fact that this is really based, I can't talk, I apologize, on like satisfying and bounded rationality and kind of settling for good enough. If we're trying to, if our goal is to try to help a company kind of, reignite their culture and get back to where they were, they don't want good enough. They want us to really get to the core of the issue and help them, and not just kind of, just, this is good enough. You don't really know the problem, but this seems good, so we're working with this.
And we don't want to experiment with their company, because let's just try this and without any kind of meaning and see if it works. I feel like, yeah, you're kind of testing certain things and seeing what changes you get, but that requires a lot of data and a lot of observing and seeing if any of those processes get you anywhere, and we want to get something clear and definitive towards how they feel about their company.
I was just thinking more of it as, experience, for this specific situation. I think we made a few jokes in the past, how many of us have actually experienced working in a bakery or, expanding bakery processes and things like that. And so, it's just, we haven't been there, we haven't done that. And so how can we really relate to, what it is they're asking for on that personal level?
An excellent point, Stephen.
Yeah.
Good observation.
To an extent, you kind of have to trust your own judgment and your own intuition if you're using this type of process. Okay, so we got two more, and in talking with the group, it sounds like we kind of centered on these two. Consensus, or method that takes the results of all members agreeing on what's best and supporting that decision.
Yes, I agree with the consensus in the brainstorming.
I think we generated, tons of ideas. I think each of us, we really did put forth similar ideas, but we were also able to come up with things that, the other team members didn't think about or didn't have that perspective. It was interesting because it's always eye-opening to hear, someone else's view when you never thought of something that way. So I think that, our brainstorming was beneficial to really generating some fantastic ideas.
Right, and we wanted to generate a ton of ideas with brainstorming and then use consensus to get something we all agree on, and that's why it worked really well with our team and this project.
Yeah, I think one of the downsides of the consensus part is sometimes it is challenging to get everyone to necessarily agree on one single action or one single idea. But, there's 5 of us, and hopefully we can work through those challenges as we finish this project.
And we definitely took our time and using consensus, and yes, it definitely took us a lot longer, but there was a lot of discussion, but we got something we can all agree on, and that was the main point of consensus.
I can agree with all of that.
All right, yeah, I think we should move on to our 4 problems that we got down to from our brainstorming and consensus, and I'm probably going to switch over to our brainstorming doc and kind of pull that up. I just wanted to touch base. We kind of made standards for our brainstorming to make sure we got good results, and you could see it on screen right now that we decided to first we limited it down to our 7 topics, our 7 things that we might want to include in our topic, and then we found a way with consensus to kind of all of us agree on one topic that we want to use as our topic statement, and then disagree on the rest and explain why, and that's where brainstorming came in. We also wanted to make sure we wrote in complete sentences so we could be understandable when reading it when we're not in meetings like we are now, using the book and stressing any strong points that we found in the book and any other outside resources. And again, we want to be respectful of everybody's opinions and keep an open mind and discuss it as a team. And then, yeah, that's basically our standards for our brainstorming. And then we could start with talking about poor decision making as one of our topics we got from one of our original meetings. If somebody wants to start off there.
Well, I can just start with what I said. That was one of the topics that was put forth as a potential issue with Rummy Cake, and I personally didn't believe that poor decision making was a core problem. I couldn't really determine, at least not from my own viewpoint, what specific decision that they made was poor that led them to where they are present. And I don't necessarily think that expansion was a poor decision. And I also just wrote that the owners and whatever leadership team have chosen to develop a plan to communicate and educate on the company values of empowerment, commitment, and participation. The culture of the bakery could have been duplicated in the new bakery. And I don't think that the additional bakery will ever have the magic of the first bakery. But they came close with the commitment and dedication of the strong leadership team that believes and models the way.
Yeah,
When it comes to the poor decision making, I mean, when I read it, I didn't feel like there were any really bad decisions made by the company. I mean, hiring new people because of expansion is a good thing. I don't think expansion is bad at all. So.
And there wasn't enough information in the case study to say that there was any poor decision making. We had our reality and we had their core values and we got a good description of their culture, but there was no information there that said that anybody was making poor decisions. And if it was anything, it was the expansion. And again, yeah, I agree with you that companies should expand. If they're doing successful, they should be more successful. So.
Yeah, I think the only other thing I wanted to add with that is even if there was poor decision making, I would want to explore why those decisions were made. Was there something that caused those decisions to be the ideal decision in the people who were responsible for making them? So I didn't see that as a root cause, but possibly a symptom of some other cause.
I just wanted to say that one of the things I looked at with the bakery was trying to identify what their strengths and weaknesses were, and then reading the case study, what some of the problems that I saw. And the thing is that if they were originally, their strengths were providing quality baked goods and having excellent customer service and relationships with their employees and customers and the community as a whole, that probably should be what they are striving for to maintain their popularity. Expansion to me doesn't necessarily mean having more than one location. It can mean one location just in a larger size. So instead of a 10 by 10 room, it could be a warehouse size where you have more employees and you're able to produce more just at a larger location where everybody can still come. That's universal for everyone to know. And that's what I thought was the weakness. I kind of took it from a different angle, and I thought that adding new locations weakened their core values by separating the members and putting them in other locations where they can't stay together and build a stronger environment. That was my take, and that's where I went. So in regards to the poor decision making, I kind of felt as though that was a poor decision to open up new locations, whereas they could have expanded by staying in one location, whether that meant taking over a block or what have you.
What if I live in Philly and they're in Harrisburg and I want a cake?
Well, there's this really cool bakery in Chicago, and it's only in one location, and if I want to eat there, I have to go there.
That's true. Sometimes that is a good thing.
That was my perspective.
Yeah, I can definitely see some merit to what you're saying there. I'm not sure if it, for me, I don't know that it hits it exactly, but I can't discount what you're saying at all.
Same.
I can agree with that, and I'm going to need that bakery so I can head over there soon.
All right, so let's move to staff relationships and communication. We'll start with you, Dana, again, since you started the last topic.
Sure. So I disagreed with this one because, although I agree that relationships are important, I think, it's really a reflection of the leadership and what has been put into the new employees. What are the standards that have been taught? I don't know that it's really just based on relationship, reflection of the leadership.
Gina?
It's interesting because what I gathered from this, the Remy Cake has a pretty flat structure in terms of leadership, which I think can affect the relationship between the employees and their results. So I think it's another one where I think there's some nugget of truth there to it, but maybe not enough to be the core method or the core reason or problem.
Right. I agree with you, Jess. And I know that I noted down that the informal structure was a little too relaxed, and that making it ambiguous to new employees. But I would agree that it's probably not the core problem. But it's definitely something that when we fix whatever it is that we're working towards here, that is something that is covered in the primary problem, even if it is just something that it happens because of something else. I think that there is an issue there. It may not be the biggest issue, and it may not be the core issue, but I definitely think communication is part of the problem with the bakery.
Yeah, I agree with you, Gina. I think that especially when you say that like the lack of formal positions creates ambiguity. People don't know what the standards are. They have never been taught the culture and what they're supposed to do. They really don't know. They're just going to do, what they do. So I definitely agree that the culture wasn't communicated properly. The standards weren't communicated properly. And that, that may not be the core value, but it's absolutely a symptom of, something bigger.
And then, yeah, I believe the relationship and the communication has been affected since the start of the company, because it didn't evolve really with the company changes. So I do believe it is an important aspect of what we need to look at, but I did not see it as the topic statement, like our home run. I think it was something we needed to touch base on, but something that wasn't going to be the core of our topic.
I can feel what you're saying there. And the only reason I kind of disagree with this being the main problem is that, you can have relationships between all the workers in a store, but you can't really build that same relationship level when you're starting to have multiple locations or multiple departments within a larger factory type setting.
Right.
So it makes it a little harder for those employees to get to know each other on the
Right.
basis that where the company was originally at. So,
Yeah, they were a family at their original location, where now they're separated. So it makes things harder, and I'm glad we chose that as one of the topics. Moving on, our third topic is existing company culture and market uniqueness. I agreed on this, and it looks like Gina did too. But yeah, if you want to start again, Dana, we'll take it from there.
Their initial company culture was the issue. I think the fact that the company's culture seems to be fading and diminishing is more of an issue than their original culture, because their original culture is really what got them to the level of success that they've achieved. And I think that, once again, this is really a reflection of leadership really not modeling, or maybe not even necessarily modeling, but not really teaching and educating the staff about the culture. So I don't think the culture in itself, is the failure. I think the fact that the culture has changed and is not being held to standard is an issue, but not necessarily the core issue.
I definitely agree with you on that in terms of the leadership that's coming in is not promoting the culture that the bakery used to have. However, it's just like the market uniqueness type deal just kind of throws me off in this being the actual problem, because businesses are always looking for that way to be different, to be unique, and so why would being unique be a problem?
So yeah, I didn't think that the uniqueness was a problem. I think the uniqueness is what made them great to begin with. So I think because of everything else that happened, the lack of leadership, the expansion, that the culture didn't evolve with all those changes, and that's why I chose this as the main topic, just because the culture needs to evolve with the company to make sure that the customers are perceiving Remy Cake as they always did, and the employees are a tight family that work together to get things done. So I think that with less involvement of the infected leadership, that the culture was fading, and again with the expansion of the company, and that's why I kind of chose this as a core, because I think it's what made Remy Cake great to begin with for the employees and the customers.
I did note that I agreed with for this topic, because but first I want to say I don't think it's the source problem. I think it's one of the presenting problems, or maybe even a deeper problem, because I think Remy Cake needs to retain their talent, their bakers, their core employees, because that's what helped them to maintain the high customer satisfaction that they originally had. So I agreed with it, but this is where I disagree. I don't believe that it's the source problem. I think something else is causing it. So maybe it's a deeper problem, but it's not a presenting problem or a source problem. I'm not sure where it falls in the linkage there, but I definitely think that it is a problem because it's lacking, and it should be there because it's what makes them unique. But I don't think that it's the core problem.
So I wanted to give my 2 cents on this one, and then hopefully kind of segue into the other one, the other problem to solve, so to speak. The company I work at, we had a new CEO join us in the last couple of years, and one of the things I kept hearing over and over again is that the culture has totally changed at our organization. And it's really interesting because I don't think culture is something I can grab or twist or turn or anything physical like that. but certainly the leadership that came down from our new CEO really the most compelling reason why the culture changed positively in those years. So for me, I think company culture is certainly a problem and can be causing some of the problems, but it's not the root cause, because I think company culture comes from so many different things, including leadership and norms and expectations. So I couldn't put all my stock into that one, but I did pretty much agree wholly with the idea of some failings on the part of leadership as part of the problem here, which is our next topic.
Okay.
I agree with you on that one, and I think someone has touched on leadership as being part of all the other stuff that we've talked about before, as you know, and I think all of those are just symptoms of maybe ineffective leadership being in place right now within the company. Maybe the leaders should be training the people that are going to hold their positions in other locations, or there should be some way where replacements can step in when something happens. People aren't healthy all day, every day. People take vacations, and you got to have business goes on. So.
Yeah, you need those goals, standards, and expectations for the employees. They need to understand what they are, and that was a big part of the company culture, I believe, too. But moving on to lack of motivation, we're at 41 minutes now, so just to sum this up, we all disagreed on lack of motivation. We didn't have enough information to say that the employees were not motivated or anything like that, and we all kind of just stated why here that we believe it was other reasons, and this wasn't a good topic at all. So we're going to skip past that part. Ineffective leadership was pretty much our main one that we decided for our topic. So we could talk about a little more about this than the others if you want, but I do want to move on because we don't want to hit the 60 minutes. We're going to only touch on 6 and 7 for a second, but ineffective leadership is our core topic. So if you want to start, Dana, you want to say why we all agreed that, and then we can just go one person at a time, kind of try to stress your points, and then we can move on.
Okay, I'll be as succinct as possible. So, I think that when I was looking at all of the other topics, for me, everything was a result of or in response to the leadership. I think that, with the expansion of the business, the existing leadership structure no longer works for the expansion of the business. And I think with that came, no one, it appears or it seems as if that wasn't considered when the expansion was decided upon. How do we continue to lead this organization in a way that's going to be effective? And because you didn't have that real conversation, or I believe you didn't have that conversation, all of these other things kind of fell apart. The culture seems to be diminishing. Customer service is suffering. And then there's no one to really kind of take the reins and bring everything together.
I agree that the leadership needs to step up and probably do a little bit more structuring so that the new employees and the current employees have an opportunity to learn what the core values are and the culture. I was in agreement with ineffective leadership.
Jasper, Steve?
I already kind of said what I had to say about ineffective leadership. So.
Okay.
I think the only thing I'm going to add real quick is I think this just comes down to the fact that this is a mom and pop operation, and they're kind of out of their element here. I don't think they have an expertise in growing a business past one or two stores. So I thought that was a product of not having the necessary leadership skills to be successful.
I agree, and with them, I think a lot of things have faded since they're less involved. I think things were going great until they became less involved, and they need someone to step up in their place, and they need to find those right people. And any business is important. The most important aspect is the people. Without people, you don't have a business. So they need leaders to have everybody follow and become that family, even though the family's a lot bigger now. And then employee commitment. If you guys want to move on, anything to say about ineffective leadership anymore? We pretty much covered that, right?
Good.
Good.
Okay, so we all disagreed on company expansion and diminishing employment commitment. We didn't think the employees were not committed. There wasn't enough information to say that. We all kind of just pointed back to leadership. It wasn't necessary to employees. And again, a company expansion, we all wanted to see Remy Cake expand. We all disagreed. There's a lot of good companies that have good culture. Like Jess said, Chick-fil-A has a great culture. They're doing amazing. Or Bob Evans or Ben & Jerry's. And there was nothing to suggest that the expansion was causing them to be unsuccessful. It all pointed right back to leadership, not having those standards and expectations that the employees needed. So, anybody else want to say anything on that, or should we move on to where are we at? Our topic statement, right?
Yep. What's our time?
We are at 57 minutes, so we got a good 5-10 minutes to explain our topic statement. Does anyone want to start?
You want to start just by reading it off?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll start by reading it out. So, we kind of discussed it, came to a little bit of a consensus that while we couldn't agree on the 4 problems, we felt like maybe because they're all stems of leadership challenges, that we should weave them all into our topic statement. So we kind of came up with the following. Due to multiple interwoven leadership challenges, company culture within Remy Cake Bakery no longer meets the standards of the business's core values. Priority has shifted to company expansion at the expense of customer and staff relationships, which has proven detrimental to the company's previously well-established workplace culture.
I feel the statement covers everything that we just discussed, and it's something that I support, and I think that we should do our paper on this for lesson 12.
I feel like we have a lot to talk about with a topic statement like that. There's a lot of room for us to expand on that.
Mm-hmm.
I can agree with that.
I agree. So many of the issues that, as Stephen said, so many of the issues that we talked about here really do point back to ineffective leadership, and it produces all of these kind of other issues that we've identified.
Yeah, we say multiple interwoven challenges. The challenges are linked together. The company expansion, the perception of the employees. What was the other one?
The fact that the owners are kind of phasing out, right?
Right, yeah, they're phasing out. They're not involved anymore. They're not able to instate the grade that they want. And then the standards of the company, having the employees be that focal point when our customers come in, that they see these employees are a close family, and they're working together and doing everything they can to be the best of service. And then yeah, priority is shifted to the company expansion, and that even made the leadership even less than it was, because you had a mom and pop shop. Leadership was fading, and then we're also expanded, so there's even more lack of leadership. and then that changed the perception of the employees. And then when we say detrimental, they did say they are facing reality, and it things are slowing. And I don't think it's gotten to the point where it's detrimental, but I think it is to the owners themselves. So they see it as detrimental. It might not be the worst thing that's happened or anything, but to them it might be.
Okay. So if we're all in agreement with the topic statement, and I don't know what our time is right now, Joseph.
50 minutes.
I'm sorry?
We're at 50.
50? Okay. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to mention, bring up, or comment on?
I appreciate all of you guys being part of this.
Likewise.
I think this went very well. We should all be proud of ourselves. Good job.
Great.
Yeah, we definitely spent a lot of time discussing this and have gone back and forth on multiple things, but yeah, we definitely came together as a team to get this done, so I thank you all for that.
Thank you.
Props to
Bill?
everybody.
All right. I think we're good. Let's wrap it up.
All right. Have a good night.
Don't forget to celebrate.
The turtle's dancing.
The turtle.
All right, good night, guys. I'm gonna take this recording, save it now, and then let me stop this now.